What's up, guys? Welcome in to our Week 11 recap episode. I am your host. We're going solo tonight, but it's going to be a good episode. So we got a guest coming on. Might have two guests coming on. It's been a very, very eventful weekend. I have so many stories to tell you about our trip down to see Kip, the Yell Leaders, A&M in Auburn, Jordan-Hare Stadium for the first time. It was a fantastic weekend. But here is the rundown for what we're going to be doing today on the show. We're going to be joined by our buddy Chris Gordy to talk a little bit of the SEC championship game. Now that Alabama has officially been eliminated from contention, and the LSU Tigers will meet Georgia in 2 to 3 weeks. So early thoughts on that. Talk about some of the wild things that happened, not just in the SEC, but all across the country. Also, first and foremost, where are you from? What you drinking? Ben Diesel, what's up, dude? It's 2022 Cadillac. Williams is a better coach. Yeah, it's actually, can't argue that. It was a really, really, really cool night, even as somebody that's not an Auburn fan. What's up, Jeff Rollins? Yeah, we all love Gordy. He's the best. I need to send him a link first off. Yeah, so we also going to answer some questions we threw out to the Facebook group as well. We have the comments going in here as too. So if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, any concerns, whatever, put it in the suggestion box. That is the comment section. Beard Dog, by the way, hit me up, DM me on Twitter if you want one of those stickers still, because I still have them. What up, Willie Gray? As the only Vandy fan. Yeah, where you been, Jeff Jensen? Okay, we're gonna start. We'll start early with the Vandy stuff because that was awesome. It wasn't the biggest game of the weekend, but my God, what a great win for Clark Lee and Vanderbilt as well. So let's get into it. The Week 11 recap. Let me send this link to Gordy. Did anybody go to a game this weekend? I think, Willie, didn't you go to the game in Starkville? Hold up. I am pretty confident my message is not working. Well, actually, I can do this. Yeah, so just dead radio. This is perfect. Anyway, that was an awesome win. That was an awesome win. I mean, from start to finish, they were in that game, and it was not like a fluke. Like in Kentucky, personally, I enjoyed it, Jeff, just because of how obnoxious their fans were when I even casually suggested that they were kind of shitty a while back. Pretty accurate. Yes, Vin Diesel, we still have the Horny for Disrespect stickers. Willie said he froze his ass off. Yeah, Auburn was fucking freezing cold. But all in all, it was a really, really fun weekend. It could have gone south like really, really, really quickly if Bama would have lost. All right, let me start by saying this. I'm sitting at Segordy right now. For those of you who don't know, we decided we were going to go try to maximize the rest of the season and go to as many places as possible and take in as much football as we can before it's the offseason. So I went down to Auburn, Alabama for the first time in my life. Real fun drive. It's like a 2.5 hour drive. Turned that into 4.5 hours. Not sure how. And I could just tell it was going to be a really great weekend right off the bat. We got to the hotel, and my very intelligent double graduate from UGA, super pretty girlfriend, she booked the hotel for not just the wrong night, the wrong month and year. She booked it for February of next year. So not the best start, but we went down to Midnight Yell that night. Also went to the game the next day. Had a blast. So thank you, Ben. They would not let me in, by the way. They would not let me in while wearing this. They said it looked like I was there to cause trouble, and they weren't wrong. And also Midnight Yell was a huge letdown because it was only like 5 minutes. Like, I mean, by the time I got in to the actual event, it started like, I guess, 10 minutes prior to that. It lasted like 5 minutes tops. But I did meet Kip. We're basically best friends. So there's that. Yeah, Mickey, I was very hesitant to tell you about this. Mickey asked why my road trips always take double the length of time they should. When I went to Baton Rouge last year, that was like an 11-hour trip for some reason. There's Gordy. Love the hat you're not wearing. What hat am I not wearing? What are you talking about? Hold on, let me bring Gordy in here. Anyway, let's get started. Hello, sir.
Yo, what's up?
That was a strong start. I already told everyone about the LSU game. We don't have to talk about it at all. we're gonna have to act like it's not happening.
I actually wanted to hear more about Cadillac Mania. I mean, it's like there are people really going to bat for him. Like Cadillac better get this job. I'm like, whoa. He's 1-1. He won one game against a bad A&M team.
So I was gonna close with that, and I mean, but we could start with it. Because I was just gonna go over some of the just like the ins and outs of the trips and say thanks to people. But I tell you what, the weekend in general, right? Like I went down to Auburn. I've never been. Have you been to Jordan-Hare?
Yeah, it's a great. It's probably been about a decade since I've been there, but great SEC environment, great fans, cool stadium, great loud. You got the experience. It was pretty loud, at least watching on TV last night.
I will say, like my expectations weren't super high because it's a 3-6 team going up against another 3-6 team, and as you know, as much as we give A&M shit, and obviously I give Auburn shit because it's a rival of ours. That those two fan bases were so genuinely nice and like good-hearted people. Shout out also to one of our listeners, Jax. I thought about this today. He must be like just either the thickest skin or the coolest dude ever because he hit me up in my DMs and said he had 2 tickets for me if I wanted. He works for like the 12th Man organization. Super, super nice. Great seats. So I was like, yeah, like that's perfect. We'd love to go down there for that. And then I realized I was like, man, if he's an A&M fan and he's consistently listens to the podcast, like that guy he's like the fucking MVP of all of our listeners. Between me and Tyler, at least. Anyway, so we go down there. We went to go tailgate, all kind of shit. That's when the nightmare started, Gordy. We went to the tailgate, and Bama was immediately, just right off the bat, they were down. And this is going to shock you, but nobody at the Auburn tailgate was going for Bama.
Yeah, let me tell you real quick. Like LSU fans, like all my buddies were so conflicted. Like they knew after LSU beat Arkansas, it was like, yeah, if Bama wins, you win the SEC West. And I have friends who were like, this just feels dirty. I can't root for Alabama. Yeah. Like it was a weird, but I'm like, look, it's what you got to do. One of my friends, I said, look, you don't have to root, just let it happen. What happens, happens,
You can't say stuff like that. Yeah, it sounds weird.
If you beat A&M at the end of the year, you win no matter what. But yeah, didn't that feel like that was Lane's best shot? And like, it's just not going to happen. He's never going to beat Saban.
I think there were so many gross overreactions from this game, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And we'll get into that too. I still got to tell you about just the debacle that ensued. I was trying to print a fake pass to get on the field because one of my buddies from Twitter, Auburn Memes, he had a field pass. And I was like, I could do this. I'm in Canva, like working some magic, while the end of the Arkansas game is happening. And we finally get to the tailgate. And so there's like 6.5 minutes left in the Tennessee game. What the fuck was going on there? Were you watching this?
Tennessee, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, they put in Joe Milton, and apparently like somebody at the committee was like, hey, style points matter, guys. If you hang 6-6 on Mizzou, we're going to put you in that playoff. Just keep scoring, Heupel. Like, yeah, it was a little – I felt
they
a little –
They started calling fucking timeouts.
Yeah, I felt icky watching it.
Well – if you felt icky, Gordy, just imagine how I did rolling up to someone's tailgate, just like knowing full well that I was going to be being myself in public during a Bama game, a big Bama game around all these Auburn fans. And I was just like, why the fuck is this game not starting? So they finally started and Bama's like losing right off the bat. So it was just, and then the satellite went out and the entire place, every single tent, the TVs went out. I didn't know if I was being punished or what, but anyway.
That happened. Yeah. I had friends in Louisiana who were texting me. They said, did the Ole Miss Bama game just go out for you? And I'm like, no, not for me. But apparently they all lost it too. So it must have been something regional where it went out. But you're right. Like doing the back-to-back stupid, early CBS game. And like they should have cut away from that game much sooner than they did. Like they were like, they're sticking with it. Guys, it's a blowout, and Tennessee's like calling timeouts, and Joe Milton's throwing the football, and they're like, by the way, we're going to join Alabama, Ole Miss coming up in a few minutes. Like, no, go to that. Like, what are you doing? You're wasting everybody's time. And then they're finally, like, with 2 minutes left, they're like, all right, well, you can catch this game on the CBS Sports app. Like, only the most diehard of diehard Tennessee fans are going to go to the CBS Sports app and watch the conclusion.
That's the best point you should have made, was it like nothing to do with the time left, the score. It was fucking Tennessee and Missouri. I just was blown away. So anyway, but we went to a couple tailgates. Everyone was super nice. Went to, I'm trying to think, the went to the A&M tailgate to go meet up with Jax, the listener, and all of them were super nice. Just the most clutch setup ever. Like, they not only had, like, I was eating pie with my hands, which felt weird. I don't remember why either. I think I was just like in panic mode. But they had like a lifetime supply of hot hands because it was fucking freezing, just freezing this weekend.
Did you
Anyway,
know the reason like Moose Muhammad did not play in the game?
we got to talk about this too, because so going into the stadium, I can tell you firsthand, it was fucking cold. It was really, really cold. The story came out afterwards, right? Like Jimbo wouldn't let him play. He's arguably he's like the third best offensive player for them. They don't have anyone besides A-Chain and Stewart. So like, what the fuck happened?
So Jimbo said after the game it was an internal issue. He was dressed out, and everyone's like, "Wait, why isn't he playing? He's healthy, whatever." Moose put on his Instagram or something, and then apparently deleted it right after. Basically said he was wearing sleeves, and that's against Jimbo's rules. Is he doesn't allow players to wear sleeves. And so when he came out in sleeves, Jimbo was like, "You're not playing," and did not play one. You're already hampered with your starting running back out, a true freshman quarterback in here, but because I'm a stickler for the rules, even though we're 3-6, I'm a stickler for the rules. We're not playing one of our best offensive weapons because I know it's cold and freezing. I'm going to wear a sweatshirt, but you can't wear sleeves. Like, how stupid 1972 football perspective is this of Jimbo?
First off, he's not that guy. I don't know why he was trying to fucking tough talk anybody about sleeves. It's like the least important part of what was going on. First off, you had a quarterback go into that game and threw 13 consecutive incompletions. 13. And you're worried about wearing sleeves. That is the dumbest shit ever. So I just assumed that it was like some weird misunderstanding, but it was not. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you the person's name because I'm not allowed to. But shout out to one of our friends at 24/7 Sports who got me in the recruiting part, like of like getting Jordan hair. Like, again, everyone was nice as shit. I felt like I had to tell people I was a Bama fan, which I probably didn't. Probably was a lot of awkward conversation starters, but like everyone was so nice, I felt like guilty just for being me. So we get in. Good.
Think of the mentality. Like it's a 3-6 team versus a 3-6 team, and it's a sellout. Like everybody has rallied around Cadillac. You know the season's going nowhere. You've already fired Harsin. Like there's no reason to be mean and like everyone's going there with an attitude of we don't give a shit what happens. Like
right.
We hope we play well. We hope we play inspired football. Like that was the mentality going to that game last night. So it's not like it was like if Auburn was 8-2 and fighting for a playoff spot in SEC West position, yeah, everybody would have been talking shit and it would have been vile. But like,
yeah,
at this point of the season, man, you got nothing to lose. You're playing with house money. Just go out there and see if you can win a game.
Well, and like all jokes aside, the thing about the Cadillac situation, it's really, really interesting because when they first announced it, I was like, that's really smart because you have him and Zach Etheridge on staff still, right? So what they can basically do is these are people that know the program, that have like they care about the program, and I think for a place like Auburn, especially, that's really big. And bring somebody in that is going to get invested into the family and Auburn and all their traditions, all that kind of shit. But with somebody like Cadillac and Zach Etheridge and other people that are still on staff, you can hold the fort down there and know that the program is in good hands. You'll actually still probably increase your recruiting because of the fact that how bad Harsin left it. And then you can go out and try to figure out who your next coach is going to be without having any sort of issues in-house. But the amount of fans and the support and like just how much they've rallied behind him, it was awesome. So coming into this game, like you said, they're both 3-6 teams. A&M is, my God. I mean, they are bad. It was not great offensive football. I will say that. If you were looking for like great quarterback play, that was not it.
This was not the place. By the way, first A&M first team that sign the number one recruiting class to not have a winning season.
Almost fucking impossible, Jimbo.
Like, isn't that impossible? Like, you don't sign the number one class and finish worse than 6-6. It just that doesn't happen. And so that, again, you just said how bad is this A&M team? There are 4 and 5 stars everywhere. Like,
everywhere.
It's almost impossible.
Also, you know where the highest concentration of them are? On the fucking defensive line.
Right.
So to give up over 100-something yards, like rushing to both, what do you call it, Jarquez Hunter and Tank Bigsby. Right. I mean, it was like, also like the whole thing, it was almost like this weird, I mean, and Auburn fans were super wax poetic about the whole thing about, you know, like this was like a big deal for a lot of people because like you know, Cadillac Williams is a favorite player in that program, probably like what, top 5, top 10, at least in the last 25 years or so. So it's a really cool opportunity for him. At the same time, like it could not have been put up on a tee better for him because like you're playing A&M, you're playing at home. Like you said, they have all these freshmen everywhere, but they couldn't stop fucking anybody. And the fact that Carnell Williams, it wasn't like he was sticking it to Harsin, but like, yeah, here's what you do with the only 2 good offensive players you have. First off, you don't ask them if they're going to wear sleeves to the game, and then you hand them the fucking ball. Yeah, so it was. No, it's not. It's not. But it was a lot of fun, man. The environment was really, really loud. It was a lot of fun. We did the swag surf. Both fan bases did. One was whiter than the other. I'll let you guess which one it was. But yeah, that was.
They had a good, you know, circa 2008 iTunes playlist going that whole post game. I mean, there was, I think I heard, you know, Pop Lock and Drop It. I heard
they played a lot of Pitbull,
swag surfing like 3 times. Yeah, they were really getting it going. But shout out to Cole Kublik. He had a really good post game interview with Cadillac. And again, Cole's an Auburn guy, so it felt a little bit more personal to him. And the fact they just kept the camera on him. And I saw somebody on Twitter even said, they're like, this right here is a example of, we don't need to get back to the studio. Like, stay here, stay in the moment, get the fans all, like, nobody was leaving. All the fans in the student section were still in the stands. And it was an awesome, awesome moment. But that's what I was kind of trying to hint at earlier. It's like, okay, do we recognize this as what it was? And just, that was a great, outstanding moment. Or should Auburn take something out of this and say, look, we got to at least consider Cadillac, because could we get this done? If we take all this money that we have, by the way, we're still paying all these buyouts. If we take all this money that we have and go hire 2 of the best coordinators in the country, we hire stud OC and DC, and we make Cadillac the figurehead, you know he's going to recruit his ass off for you. You know, like, this team didn't quit. They rallied around him, and they've played hard for him. And it's a little parallel. It's not exactly a good parallel because Ogeron was a head coach.
No, it is. It's perfect.
But it feels like that in 2016. He was the interim coach, and everybody rallied around him. And all the rumors of Jimbo and Tom Herman and this and that, at the end of the day, they went with Ed Ogeron. And a lot of people said, well, if anything, we know he'll recruit, but he's got to hit on his coordinators. And say what you want, it ended in disaster. But they won a national championship and had the greatest college football season ever in 2019.
I was preaching this entire thing on Saturday night. I was like, it's the same thing, because the first thing he did was give money to Aranda, give money to the coordinators. And again, we know how it ended, but he's the guy that went out and got Joe Burrow and the guy that got Joe Brady as well. I think there's a possibility. And I don't want to get too into like whether they should get him, like whether they should offer him the job or not, because I don't think they're going to. At the same time, it was such a cool moment to see him. And you talk about the Cole Kublik thing. So we got on the field. We got a pass. We're supposed to be on there, and then like up until kickoff, and then we were supposed to go to our seats, but I didn't. But so they're coming out of the tunnel, and I'd look over, and Cole is trying, like, holding the mic in Cadillac's face as they're coming onto the field, doing like the old school like Tuberville walk, and I'm like, what in the fuck is he doing right now? So we were just like right on top of everything, and I you know, I had some drinks at the tailgate. So by the time I got on the field, I was like, where is Cole? Because I was trying to meet up and say hey to him and Tom and them. And so my buddy Means goes, he's right over there. It's like, and across the field. Like, and I was like, do I just go across? Like, can I go onto the field? He's like, no, you need to go around behind the end zone. I was like, no. So I just sprint across the field and just start like queen waving to Tom Hart. And he's like, Jesus Christ, what are you doing here? Anyway, I will tell you this: the coaching thing, and it was an incredible win from Auburn. It was great. They held on late. There was just, I mean, it had everything that Auburn football is like just built on. You had a targeting call late in the game that was overturned, just like Smoke Monday. We're going to call it Smoke Tuesday since the other one already, what do you call it, graduated. You had terrible quarterback play. You had great running back play. The crowd was into it. But I will say this: there was a lot of chatter about the coaching situation, and there was one thing that kept coming up, and I thought it was bullshit, and it actually has legs to it. You want to hear the craziest rumor that apparently is very accurate about the Auburn head coaching job?
I love good coaching rumors. Yes.
Dabo Swinney has reached out to Auburn about being potentially interested in that position, in that job. And when you think about it, there might not be a more perfect fit for a somewhat culty, somewhat religious based cult like Auburn. I mean, that like,
it's not crazy because it feels like the running side of Clemson has run its course, right? Like it feels like if he left tomorrow, I doubt there like everybody at Clemson would be like, no, don't go. Like they would probably like, okay, probably time to move on. LSU was like, they threw it out there a year ago that like he was one of the early names. And I think he was pretty quick. They were pretty quick to come out and go, no, Dabo's off, like he's not interested or whatever. But like his name did come up in the LSU search a year ago. And so when we heard that, it was like, all right, well, how much longer does he want to do this? And of course, all the NIL stuff, which, you know, he's at least made it known, I'm against this and all this. But if he goes in, like if he comes and looks, this is where college football is heading. Auburn's already got the NIL collectives ready and going.
Yeah.
Like
they are.
And all the talk of he would not want to be the guy to follow Saban in Alabama because that's what everybody has said for years. Oh, perfect transition. Dabo could just come follow Saban at Bama. What perfect way to go the other way and go to their rival and try to beat them at Auburn. It's not the craziest thing I've heard.
No, I mean, honestly, like, and the thing, it's so weird and bizarre to kind of watch this whole thing unfold because Auburn fans are all in on this thing, man. Like they are back invested. They got the NIL stuff going, like the collective. They unveiled their new football facilities. There's over 5,000 people waiting in line. It's also basketball season for them, which is huge, apparently. They can just like seamless transition, like from the like mediocrity that is their football team into an actual sport they're good at. But they did all this to themselves with like the boosters and the things with Harsin. And let's not forget, like, it wasn't that long ago they were like, that's my coach. I'm staying with Harsin.
Nobody was really standing with Harsin. Like five people said that.
But like either way, they talked themselves into that, and now you're looking at it, and they are reinvested back in the program. They're fired up again after they tore down their own expectations. So
that's the tough part, though. I mean, at the end of the day, who's going to make the decision? It's the big money makers, right? The big money makers, they like Cadillac. It's a fun story, but they want to go get the biggest name out there. I mean, that's what
Lane Kiffin just tweeted something about Kristen Saban.
Uh-oh. What do you say?
There's a story on Outkick. It says Nick Saban's daughter issues warning to Bama fans on Perspective, and Lane Kiffin just retweeted it.
Why is he doing?
All right.
I've seen he's been retweeting stories about him and about the SEC and stuff. What is he trying to do? I know he's the biggest troll out there, but what point is he trying to make?
I don't know, but I'm uncomfortable even seeing that title. I will say that. Let's get into that game, by the way. Move on from the Auburn A&M game. We'll get into that more later after the Gordy is gone. That sounded weird, like super ominous. But did you get a chance to get in front of a TV and watch the game that was stolen from Ole Miss this weekend? Alabama goes into Oxford as a 12.5 point favorite, which was free money, by the way. We said that all week, free money, and did what they have been doing. It seems like over the past 2 years, for like the first quarter at least, and maybe the first half, found themselves down in a double-digit hole, down 10-0, Bill O'Brien was just fucking in his bag too, man. When I say in his bag, I mean doing anything he could to just ruin my blood pressure and my fucking Saturday. What were your main thoughts, like in initial takeaways before going into the second half? Like the first half alone, what did you think?
I thought first drive, Kiffin didn't learn anything from last year, dude.
At all.
Take points. I know, like there's usually this mantra with Alabama outside of this year where you never want to settle for field goals.
Right.
They're going to score touchdowns, and Bama will trade field goals for touchdowns all day. And that's like, I get it. This is a different year for Bama. This is not a Bama team that's just putting foot on the gas pedal with the offense and scored 50 points a game.
They can't, yeah.
I thought that was a huge misstep on his point. 4th and 2 from the 12, and they turn it over on downs. Right? I'm like, dude, take the points. It is the first drive of the game. Take points. Take a lead. If they kick a field goal there, this game might have played out differently. You know, just from how Bama manages and all that. I thought it was very strange that Jahmyr Gibbs, we saw so little of him, and that they relied so much on Jace McClellan in the run game.
That made me happy and also confused at the same time, just because it was nice to see more people involved than just Bryce Young. Because for the first half, it was the same old shit. It was at one point you had the first 22 plays of the game, you had 18 passes and only 4 runs, and it just speaks back into like, all right, you have Jahmyr Gibbs and you have the like running backs that have the 3rd highest yards per carry out of any team in the country. And we are somehow ranked 88th in terms of rushing attempts per game. Early on, especially it didn't look like it was anybody's fault. Like it wasn't Bryce's fault that he couldn't, find receivers. It wasn't like receivers not getting separation. The offensive line was just getting fucking just blown by the entire first quarter, first half. And at one point, you're looking at the stats, and I think Ole Miss had over 150 yards of offense in the first quarter alone, and Bama had like 22. And it looked real bad real early. They weathered the storm a little bit, and it became a really good game, I thought. It was
the Zach Evans fumble is what changed everything. If Ole Miss can go into that half up 10 points,
right?
I don't know if Bama, I think they, it would have been more difficult, is what I'm saying. Like Bama getting that fumble and then scoring the touchdown, make it 17-14 at half, gave them life. And they're like, oh, we're right in this. If they go in the half down double digits, and let's say Ole Miss even let's say they go down the field and score a touchdown on that drive. I mean, the whole game,
which is not out of question.
Yeah.
I mean, and you look at it too, like I think their first 6 possessions, Bama had 3 punts, a turnover on downs. They went for the worst fucking 4th and 1 play call I think I've ever seen. It was, I was so confused. Turnover and downs, like I said, you had a fumble, and then you did have 1 touchdown. So early on, you see a different side of Bryce Young that we have not seen before, except for in that Dr. Pepper commercial when he was like cucking that stepbrother of his, and he starts lighting into the team on the sideline, right? And Saban joined him, which was it was it was just nice to see some fucking signs of life and like fight from this team. But again, you're going into the half, and like you said, like this could have easily gotten away from like the biggest thing for me was the 3rd down conversions was they could not get off the field. They absolutely could not get off the field. At one point, you had Ole Miss was 7 of 11 on 3rd downs. I think Bama was like maybe 1 of 8 or something. It was the entire game was one-sided, and it wasn't even just like the run game. Quinshon Judkins is incredible. Yeah. But it wasn't even just the run game from Kiffin. Kiffin was doing it through the air, like put a lot of faith in Jackson Dart, which I think came back to bite him. But you end up getting to the half down 3, like you said, 17-14. And that is the only thing that kept Bama in this game, because like going into the second half, there's one thing that's been consistent with Lane Kiffin, besides him being a dickhead on Twitter, is they have fallen off like at times in the second half. They just disappear. And that's exactly what happened. They came out, and I think Bama started they had the ball first. They kicked the field goal, and Ole Miss continued kind of did what we thought they might continue to do. They did. That's the worst fucking sentence ever. What am I saying?
They responded with a touchdown, take the lead, and you're
like,
okay, they're not going to go away, and then they went away.
But the drives, especially, it wasn't like these Kiffin drives in the past we saw with Matt Corral. It's like, 4 plays, 80 yards, like 50 seconds, like any kind of shit like that. It was 10, 14, 15 plays. They respond, like you said, they go up 24-17, and you're halfway through the third quarter. So you are 22 minutes from victory, and you're up 7. You're in control of this game. And from that point forward, they had 4 more possessions. You had 2 punts, and they were both 3 and outs that you had a combined -6 yards on, and you had 2 turnover on downs. And it did look like the moment might have been a little bit too big, not only for Jackson Dart, but for Lane Kiffin again.
Well, we've been talking about it, the Alabama defense, and kind of like who's going to step up. I thought Terrion Arnold, he had some good plays, but man, he had some bad plays, just not covering guys well and all that. But the dude to me that put himself on the map and I think absolutely improved his draft stock with just this one game. We'll see what he does in the next 2. But Byron Young was a dude. Byron Young had his best game in an Alabama uniform, and
without a doubt.
And I don't know where they would have been without him. I mean, he was outstanding and clogging up that lane, slowing down, starting to shut down the run, getting pressure on Jackson Dart, and it was it felt like a different Alabama defense in the second half.
Well, so it was. That's a good point, because we found out last week that Pete Golding was fucking playing around with numbers, and I don't know what he was trying to do, but at the LSU game, he wasn't putting like multiple actual defensive linemen on the field at the same time. Whether it was like the cheetah package where you have like all those edge rushers, you had several drives, like not just plays, but drives where there would not have been more than one true defensive lineman on the field at the time. And like some were calling it like a 1-6-4, which is a bold move. That's a bold strategy. So Byron Young, Dallas Turner, both of them I thought had really, really good games, stepped up.
Dallas Turner tried to take a souvenir with him home. Jackson Dart's head.
People got really upset about that. There were multiple people that were like, he should be suspended for the rest of the year. I was like, have you fucking watched football before? Like, I don't like. Anyway. That's the part I want to get into a little bit too, because it was a great game. I thought Ole Miss is still a really good football team, and they did have a lot of opportunities to win that game. But what I saw afterwards, and maybe I'm wrong here, you can tell me if I'm off base, even from our own website, my former co-host wrote an article that was just, it seemed so negative in nature, like that this was not a Bama win. This was either Kiffin blew it, the refs made some horrible calls. I mean, Dallas definitely should have gotten flagged for pushing Jackson Dart's head into the ground. But his name's Jackson with an X, so he kind of deserved it. But like, this game wasn't given to Bama with like the refs. This game was not like I guess what I was very surprised by was that we're finally at a point where Alabama's not even they're not the best team in the conference. They might even be the top 3 best teams in the conference. Like, they have been passed by Georgia, maybe Tennessee. LSU looks great. But the fact that like, I think the assessments and like people's ability to objectively, I guess, evaluate them or talk about them is gotten even worse, because that whole point. Go ahead.
Let's talk reality. Alabama's 2 plays away from being undefeated right now. Right. If they make their damn field goal in Knoxville and don't miss it and let Tennessee go down and answer and kick their game winner, they win that one. And if the LSU, was it Mason Taylor, tight end, catches the ball or bobbles it or whatever in the 2-point conversion and drops it, Alabama's undefeated. It is that close. There are 2 plays away from, and it's not even crazy scenarios. It's not like, well, they throw an 80-yard bomb, they're undefeated. No,
they were on the last play of the game for both against top 6 teams on the road.
A Will Riker field goal and a 2-point conversion in Baton Rouge. They are undefeated right now. We're talking about an Alabama-Georgia SEC championship game. It's so funny how, like, I always go with Vegas. Vegas knows. Like, Vegas, they're unbiased. They don't root for anybody. They just set lines. Like, somebody told me, I don't know if the official lines are out. Tell me if you've seen one for LSU Georgia in the SEC championship.
11.5.
I'm here. Yeah, like it's a two touchdown or 2-score underdog. Somebody told me if it was Alabama if Alabama was undefeated right now, like Alabama would be a slight favorite against Georgia right now if they're playing.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, that makes no sense.
It's crazy because we know how good they are. And so, yeah, and look, I know they've played. We're not used to Bama playing close games. Let's just put it honest, right? I mean,
Right.
like they've played close games this year. The Texas game, yeah, you can make a case they maybe could have lost that one, but again, just like that, I can make a case that they're undefeated right now. So I say all that to say this is still a really good Alabama team. We'll see how much Auburn shows up. You know, the Auburn faithful and the Auburn football team shows up in the Iron Bowl, but it feels like Bama's going to rout Austin Peay and probably win big in the Iron Bowl. We'll see. And then whoever they, God forbid, whoever they get in the bowl game, they're going to smash. So, yeah,
I mean,
Alabama's not dead.
I would disagree with part of what you're saying. I think Willie Gray brought up a good point here, like that as well. And being objective, even as a Bama fan, they are 2 plays away from being undefeated. They're also 2 plays away from being 6-4. And I don't think they're a very good team in terms of where they've been in the past. But like they're not an elite team. They are not good enough to compete like for like the college football playoff, and that's fine. I don't think they're a bad team. I don't think they're a trash team. I don't think that they like are like a facade or anything like that. Like one stat that continuously gets brought up, like Connor brings it up, is that this is like the 11th game out of their last 15 SEC games where they've had a 1 score difference going into the fourth quarter. But like, you know, like the next part of that stat is they win fucking games. Right. Like if you're looking at regular season games and you throw that out there, you have 3 losses in the regular season combined by 7 points, right? I think that Georgia is the best program in the SEC. I think Tennessee is potentially very, very scary. It was good to see Florida get on the right track the other day. I don't know if Lane leaves or not. Like, I will say that it was nice, like in the moment, that like this underachieving Bama team finally achieved something and they won. And the best part of that whole thing was like people talked about this earlier. If Kiffin would have won, it might have solidified his reason to leave to go to Auburn even more, because the ceiling that would have been over his head at 11-1. I thought it was a great game. I thought it was a good, like outside the game plan on that last drive. But again, they were not gifted that game. They were not like, it's not a foregone conclusion, but like,
they played lights out in the second half and won the game when they need to. I'd be curious if you know any sports bookie, you know, like odds makers out there. Ask them right now, Bama versus every other team in the SEC on a neutral field, what the line would be. I think Bama versus Tennessee right now on a neutral field, Bama's still favored. I think Bama,
but they don't win that game though.
I'm just telling, Vegas would have them as a slight favorite. I guarantee you on a neutral field right now against Tennessee.
Well, Vegas had Hillary favored by like 600 going on the last day of the election. Anyway, no, I still don't think they're not good enough to compete at the level, even with like LSU. I think LSU is like a different.
They would beat LSU on a neutral field right now. Like Bryce, we're neglecting Bryce Young is doing this without an alpha, without an A stud receiver. Now I'll give you this, Cameron Latu is like, that dude is turning out to be an absolute stud. Like, good Lord, just get him the ball in space and watch him run over dudes. But no, like I think what will be intriguing to me, like I think Bama's going to win these next 2. I think they're going to rout whatever shitty 12 team they play in a Florida bowl game, and they're going to go 11-2. And it's going to be a down year. Every other school would beg for that. But like, my big thing is, what does this team look like next year? Is it?
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
At quarterback, how many guys leave? You know, that may be a team where Saban looks at and goes, you know what, retirement may not be such a bad idea, because he's going to lose a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's talk about. Let's move on to the team that LSU will be playing in the SEC championship. We'll obviously get into LSU and Arkansas. Or do you want to start with LSU Arkansas? Because there was not much really to talk about in this game. It was. I guess like. Yeah, seamless transition off of what you just said about Vegas. Like this, there's not a better example of Vegas always knows than this game. It was a 3-point line. It was like the weirdest line all week. It made no sense. And then you get like right before kickoff, and they announced that KJ Jefferson is not starting. And the line like moves like 2 points or so, nothing crazy. This game was ugly, man. Ugly.
It was. When I saw it was snowing early in the morning in Fayetteville, I just kept saying like LSU's going to come out stiff. They're going to come out and like not know what hit them. And then they tend to, in years past, at the week after the Alabama game, they always come out kind of flat because you gave your all for an emotional win or loss the week prior. And I got to give Arkansas's defense credit, man. That defensive line played their butts off. Jordan Dominic, I think is his name.
He had 6 sacks in the first quarter and a half.
They were getting after it. But what we saw from Jaden Daniels on the LSU side was we saw a throwback to hesitant Jaden Daniels. We saw jet fly and letting it hang out Jaden Daniels against Bama, against Ole Miss, down in the swamp against Florida. We saw Jaden Daniels from the first few weeks of the season in this one where he's hesitant. He's holding, I can't throw it.
Nobody was open.
Let it go. Yeah. But and again, they did Dwight McLaughlin, I thought, did a fantastic job covering for Arkansas. But this is still one of the worst pass.
It's the worst
in the country. LSU let it fly, Jaden. That's what was crazy. But I think they looked at it and said, look, our defense is getting after it. Malik Hornsby ain't doing shit against us. Let's keep this one close. And they even had the 2 turnovers early, the interception and the fumble. And they still were right there in this game. So, yeah, it was ugly. But, look, LSU did exactly what they needed to do. And a star has been born in recent weeks. Harold Perkins Jr., if you didn't know who number 40 was for LSU, Jackson Dart and Ole Miss know who he is now. Bryce Young in Alabama know who he is now. And he just completely was a force on Cade Fortin and Malik Hornsby. And the crazy thing is this kid's a true freshman. What the hell is he going to look like 2 years from now at LSU? So he's already got an NIL deal. LSU needs to give him all the NIL deals and keep him there. But what an absolute stud. And then we finally had the flu after. Dude literally had the greatest single game for an LSU defensive player, and he had the flu.
He had 8 tackles, 4 sacks, I think a forced fumble, whatever. I thought about this on
forced fumbles and a third one that was overturned and called an incomplete pass. But 2 that
we're not going to get into any of the overturned calls. The overturned call, that fucking spot that they got at the very end of the game, I was losing my mind in the Auburn Student Center trying to make that forge pass. But I see William Gray in the comments, and I thought about this on Saturday, and I almost texted him this too. Harold Perkins might be who Will Anderson thinks he is. He was incredible. He was incredible to watch, and it's hard for a linebacker to take over. I feel in this day and age, but he has each week. So great win from LSU, and also they didn't look great, but that's partially because Arkansas tried to sabotage the field and the maintenance before the game. I'm not sure if you know this. If you guys missed this, I don't really ever speak on whether or not Arkansas is a dumb university or I don't feel like they're a Mississippi State or what's a better example here? Florida State, maybe. I don't want to insult anybody here. Or Bama. Just say Bama. Just a dumb school. Never even crossed my mind. Great fans. A lot of good sports. It snowed on Saturday morning and the field was frozen. And to get rid of that, someone decided to put water on the frozen field because they thought that would help. Have you never seen a fucking Home Alone? What are we doing here?
They also had their athletic Hunter Yurachek, their AD was out there helping. I'm they don't have people that can help. They need the AD out there with the shovel.
Anyway, it was very bizarre. The team LSU will be playing this weekend in a couple weeks is Georgia. And before we talk about Georgia, we're going to talk about who they're playing this week and the delightful mess that happened in Kentucky at Kroger Field. Vanderbilt, Clark Lee, the human penis, got his first win against an SEC team this weekend as they beat Kentucky. Will Levis, by the way, I don't know how much higher he can go in Mel Kiper's big board, but he had 0 touchdowns. I think he had another interception and not great.
Sacked, I think, 4 times. This is Vandy we're talking about. And
look, I linebacker named Orgy.
I love Mark Stoops. And by the way, his name surfaced in the LSU coaching search a year ago. I'm seeing it again surface. They're maybe he can go to Auburn. Look, I love what Stoops has done. 10 wins a year ago. But man, he's got to take some heat for this year. You had Will Levis, who people were projecting as a first-round pick. You got Chris Rodriguez back after a couple of games, who was the SEC leading rusher a year ago. And you had a couple pieces back on this defense. I know they've had some injuries, but dude, it shouldn't be this bad. You should never
No, it
lose to
should.
like, and they were
Well, not
ranked.
Vandy, yeah.
They were ranked. Like you
They
can't.
should have never been ranked. They should have never been ranked, Gordy. Here's the thing: you like all the people you brought up. Will Levis, you get the transfer receiver, you get Chris Rodriguez. That's all fine and good. You know who they didn't have coming back was anybody from that offensive line. And they had to replace the offensive coordinator, and Kentucky. It's a great story, but I thought he overachieved last year with Will Levis, and you look at all the numbers coming back. Like Will Levis is, he is a really good combine, like pro day quarterback. He's going to look great in shorts and a t-shirt. He's just like me.
And he'll wow you in all the interviews. I mean, he's awesome. Like if you interview him, he will charm you to death. He's awesome. But dude, how many games this year has he had like where he's had like 120 yards or less? And you're like, what? Like this guy's gonna be a first round pick? What are we doing?
And he was supposed to be the one that carried them until Rodriguez got back. It's not good. It's going to get way worse this weekend when Georgia comes to town. Georgia is rolling. It's just, so early in this game, kind of a slow start, I guess. Like Starkville's hard to go. Like I feel like it's hard to get out of Starkville like with your sanity and or both legs intact. Just speaking from like Bama's quarterback situation every time they go there, but Georgia, Stetson Bennett took someone's soul on the goal line once again. It did look nothing like that, Gordy.
7 rushing touchdowns for him, by the way. Who had that before the season?
Yeah. They did on offense, they did whatever they wanted to the entire game. And I thought it was really, really impressive because there's a situation where they could have slept walk a little bit and kind of mailed it in after the big win against Tennessee. And instead, they just kept doing what they've been doing. And that's fucking dominating people, especially on the road. Kirby has only 4 losses since he's been the head coach at Georgia against conference teams on the road. They've all been SEC West teams. That was not going to happen this weekend.
Yeah, it's like preparing for a dominant Big Ten lacrosse squad when you look on paper and go Stetson, Brock, and Ladd, and they're all starts, and they're all ridiculous, and they all killed. Ladd McConkey, like he's got breakaway speed, 70 yards receiving, a 70-yard run. Brock Bowers, like we barely even talked about him in this one, but like, dude, Stetson, like Kyrus Jackson to me,
yes,
had a couple just physical moment, and I'm like, God, like they are out physicaling Mississippi State. Like they just looked at him and went, get off me, little boy. I'm better than you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what Georgia was doing. And it's scary because like you said, I mean, Mississippi State, it was close at the half. And the second half, Georgia's like, we're done with you. See ya. Will Rogers, no chance to do anything. And Georgia just steamrolled them.
They came out and like the punt return right before the half to cut it to like 5, right? So the score looks somewhat close, but I think they scored within 30 seconds coming out of the halftime. And that's just something like that has become, I think we become accustomed to seeing from like Georgia, because I do think Kirby is the best coach in the country right now. And like the halftime adjustments they're making, they are able to, I feel like, toy and play with their opponents and do whatever they want and then flip the switch more than any other team in the country. And I know what happened against Mizzou early in the season, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, what they did a week ago to Tennessee, what they did yesterday, because they can do it. Like you saw at Tennessee, the story was the defense. Now you go to Mississippi State, who doesn't have a bad defense. And you've got the fucking 3 Musketeers out here. Like somehow I haven't seen 3 white kids get that much success out of nowhere since like Hanson. And you love to see it. You love to see it.
Or 3 ninjas.
Oh, yeah.
Jalen Carter, by the way, back-to-back games with sacks. Like, oh, he's healthy now. Like,
and they're still not even healthy.
Right. But like,
it's terrifying.
Like, he's a force. And, like that's just what's crazy is, this team, we talk about like how good Georgia's team was last year. Right. That team did not go undefeated. This team has a chance to. This team could run the table, go wire to wire, and win a national championship. And I mean, literally, we'll be talking like get ready for the articles written about the transition of power from Saban to Kirby. Kirby now runs the SEC if that happens.
Well, first off, they can already start writing those articles because that's accurate and that's what's happening right now. So, I mean, I fully believe that. I think that it's really impressive to watch. So, great win from Georgia. It was it kind of just what we expect to see every Saturday now. Going around the rest of the league, there was the game in Tennessee, and this was something I was definitely hoping for under my breath, which was them not being able to get up off the mat after the disappointing loss against Georgia, right? Um, I assumed they were going to blow up Mizzou because it's senior day. Hendon Hooker finally graduating at the age of 38. And like you had a Mizzou team that has a good defense, but is pretty inept on offense. So a perfect scenario and perfect situation for in my opinion, not only Tennessee to get back on track because they're going to finish the season 11-1, but get Hendon Hooker to New York and potentially get him a Heisman Trophy because he was held out of the end zone against Georgia. Now you come up and you have the last 3 games against Mizzou, South Carolina, and Vandy. I mean, have a field day, and they fucking did. They put up more yards against Mizzou than I think Mizzou had ever allowed in the history of that program.
And SEC Nation is going to that game this weekend, by the way. Tennessee at South Carolina. I don't know why. That's what I said. Maybe they think Sandstorm is the kryptonite to Hendon Hooker, and that'll slow him down.
It's
not. But you make a great point. Like we're talking about Heisman, like people are like C.J. Stroud, I think is the favorite right now. But like there really are no other good like Hendon Hooker still 2,800 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, just the 2 interceptions. Has 400 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, and he leads the SEC in completion percentage at quarterback rating. And he didn't have Cedric Tillman out there again this week. So, I take that into perspective. And yes, did they shit the bed at Georgia? Yes. But to me, the complete season totalitarian as a whole, Hendon Hooker deserves to be in New York.
Also, it could be both things. It's like I was saying earlier about Bama. You can say Bama's not as good. You could also acknowledge the schedule. You could say that Tennessee. I wouldn't say they shit the bed. I think they got beat by a much better team, and they're still young in this whole process coming up in year 2 of Heupel. Now I don't know what that looks like in a rematch or whatever, but Tennessee still has every single thing in front of them, including Joe Milton's career, because he somehow still has eligibility. He's going to be back next year. And fucking Uncle Rico was in. Oh my God, he was at it on Saturday.
He had touch this week, so let's see. Maybe he's learning something. A little touch on the passes.
I mean, if you listen to Tennessee fans, which I try to never do, they have been very, very vocal about how great he's looked in practice. Anyway, so I thought it was really impressive. And again, Jalen Hyatt doing Jalen Hyatt things. The defense looked, I guess, okay. There was a couple of busts early in the game, but they pulled away. It's like a 40-point win or something like that. 66 points, and you just feel like they could put up even more every single time they hit the field. Another team that got embarrassed in the SEC East, South Carolina. It wasn't that long ago that South Carolina was talking about the possibilities of getting to Tennessee and Clemson as on a 5 to 6 game win streak.
Yeah, I had it on. I have the multi-TV setup. I had that game on one of my TVs. I literally left the room, came back, and they were down 21-0. That's how quick that happened. Florida's run game, they ran all over them. But Shane Beamer, dude, he has a chance if they lose these last couple games, and they probably will against Tennessee and Clemson. He's going to go 6-6. Think of the difference. Last year he goes 6-6. Everybody's singing his praises.
Right.
And oh my God, the sky is the limit with Shane Beamer. If he goes 6-6 this year, they're going to be like, yeah, that's not great, dude. And what bowl game's going to want this team having lost all these games down the stretch with their one win against Vandy? No one's going to this isn't going to be a very sexy team.
Well, there's nothing about this team that's sexy at all, and hasn't been since Will Muschamp was the head coach. But I will say, I was saying this all offseason, and it's not Beamer's fault. Expectations are a great thing. It's pressure is a privilege. At the same time, it's very similar to the Arkansas situation where you have to manage and some expectations because that schedule, no matter where you are, as a programmer and who you have coming back, is very, very difficult to get. It's difficult every year, but with South Carolina, you are always going to look at that schedule before the season. You're going to see Clemson and you're going to see Georgia, and that's a fucking nightmare because you're going to
drop. When we expand, when we get Texas and Oklahoma and they redo everything, they got to drop the Clemson game. That's just
there's no way.
I know, but like you're gonna put yourself in a bind when like you're 5-6 and you need that one win to get to a bowl game and it's Clemson. And you're like, well, shit, we have no chance. Like you're making it hard on yourself keeping that rivalry going.
Well, I mean, the rivalry's been around for over 100 years. So I don't know if
I
that's
know, but
like.
I'm just saying, like, but if you're gonna add Texas and Oklahoma to the fucking schedule, I can't play Clemson
Yeah.
too. Like, come on.
I mean, I will say that like the story here, we spent most of the time talking about South Carolina, but the story here was like how great of a job Billy Napier and Florida did at like getting back up, ending the home schedule on a good note. Like and there's been times this season where like the potential has flashed so much. I feel like it's like all my middle school teachers used to say to me, like, there's so much potential. But with Florida, they're like, there really is. And Anthony Richardson, like you see it at times, they can be very, very good. They just have not been able to put all that together consistently at any point during the season. It almost feels like it's just been bookended the season. Like you had Utah that win, and you beat South Carolina. I'm excited to see what that Florida State game looks like because
it's a big
that rivalry being relevant is always better for the sport.
Look at where they are right now. They're 6-4. You go to Vandy and at Florida State. You win these next two. If Napier goes 8-4 in year one, every Gator fan's like you're excited for that. You're like, hell yeah. And one other thing we didn't talk about, this was Florida's last home game this past week. Was that the last game of Anthony Richardson in the Swamp?
There's no chance.
Like, he should come back, right?
So I don't think he's going to have the option to not come back. Also, it was announced that he has signed over $1 million in NIL deals. So it's not like he's going to be hurting for money. And that's another thing too, with like the NIL stuff that we don't talk about enough, like where you aren't going to see as many kids like make the leap early just because of like from a financial standpoint, like the ability to be able to like make some actual money while they're in school. There's no reason for him to go pro unless you just don't want to go to class. I mean, like,
well, there's still some websites projecting him as a back end of the first round. Like, if that's
Jesus Christ,
you gotta go, right? Like the NFL doesn't draft on, they draft on potential.
I don't know what could be on tape for Anthony Richardson that anyone would spend a first round pick on him, but also Will Levis. Anyway, we'll get into that some other time. But Florida looked good. They also had a big week getting a flip for a future quarterback from Miami. It's too early for me to start talking about recruiting at all. It's just I can't get into it yet because there's still part of the season left. But yeah, if Napier goes 8-4, and it's kind of funny, it just shows you how fickle SEC fans are and how dumb we all are, because the sky was falling on Brian Kelly after the Florida State game. The sky was falling on, like I feel like at least one other coach in the off or this season. Mike Leach is apparently on the hot seat now. Harsin already got fired. Everyone's talking about how Napier, like, he's not the guy. I mean, it's year one. These are big boy programs that are playing big boy teams almost every weekend. So give it some time. And, if he finishes 8-4, which that's a tough ask because Florida State is better than people think. But man, that would be huge for him.
Well, and think of the other coach, coming in this year, the two coaches that were in the hot seat were Harsin and Drinkwitz. And Drinkwitz gets a contract extension and a raise. And then he has a historic loss to Tennessee. But like, that's as crazy as, like, I don't think, and you mentioned Leach, I still don't think they're going to do it. He's 6-4. I mean, he's got a chance to finish 8-4. So, like, I think we're going to go in the next SEC season with Auburn being the only coaching change.
Yeah, I would agree with that. At the same time, you said like he get like historic loss against Tennessee for the second year in a row. It was
their worst loss
in the first quarter
in 21 years. Mizzou, that was their worst loss in 21 years.
Oh, besides all the PR stuff from a couple of years ago, but other than that, no, they had like I remember that game last year. Tennessee was up 28-0 in the first like 5 minutes. And I was like, what in the fuck is going on? That is all the SEC stuff, right? It was a fun week for sure. I will say we got to talk a little bit about what happened around the country, because outside of this little bubble, college football was awesome this weekend. It made no fucking sense. There wasn't a single thing that happened that made any sense. I don't know if you've seen the latest AP poll that came out, but go ahead and look at the last 5 teams that are listed in that AP poll. I'll pull it up for you.
Okay.
You want to try to take a guess at it?
Oh, I've got it now.
Uh-huh.
Well, I watched Tulane get run all over by John Rice Plumlee, and I could not believe when I saw Tulane was still ranked. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
they
know.
didn't
Like,
drop
they
much
didn't
at
look good.
all.
They dropped them a couple spots. I'm like, no, like Tulane should fall out. But you're
That's
right.
also their 61st straight loss to a ranked opponent. It's a worse than college football.
Tulane, Cincinnati, Coastal Carolina, Okie State, and Oregon State. It's not great.
Say that again. Coastal Carolina, Tulane, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and Oregon State. Just like Notre Dame somehow snuck back into the fucking top 20, which I hate. But the Pac-12 finally did what all these teams I feel like every year in the Pac-12 do, which is you can only have nice things for so long out in California. Just you can confirm firsthand. Like things are only going to be like peachy and great for a certain amount of time, and then all hell's going to break loose. And these hippie libs are going to fucking ruin everyone's year. They do it like it's constantly like there's probably not a conference in the country that like cannibalizes itself more in the least fun way than the Pac-12.
The Oregon loss was absolutely unacceptable. Like Dan Lanning this morning has to be like they went for it. They had a 4th and 1, a minute 26 to go, Marler, in a tied game. They went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 34 and didn't get it. Gave Washington the ball, and they kicked the field goal. And then Oregon, again, they got the ball back and they're trying to get back. But like that should have never happened. You punt the ball there.
Imagine being so sold on and being so confident on Bo Nix, probably deservingly so, that on their fucking 34-yard line. Okay, so if that wasn't because we're sitting there in like at Jordan Hare and it was like 34-27, and I go to the bathroom, I come back and the game was over. It was 37-34 ball game. That's it. If that wasn't weird enough, then you had Arizona beating UCLA, who we talked about a week ago. I thought like they were kind of getting screwed over about not being a top 10 team and possibly better than USC. Arizona, who's awful. Like over the past couple of years, their record is on par with like Vandy and Georgia Tech and all that kind of stuff. They just they're like Vandy and Georgia Tech, just without the academics and probably way more STDs. At the same time, then you looked at the national game, like the week, like the primetime game. Could not have been more fucking confused on this. TCU, Texas. It's 3-0 at the half.
Good defenses.
Sure.
No, it really was. I watched most of that game too. I had that on one of my TVs, and Quinn Ewers could not do anything. Like that offense really struggled.
I was told that he was like, I'm not going to get into that. I mean, he's been really good. He's been really good. But they held a Steve Sarkisian offense to under 200 yards. And so I just kind of assumed, all right, well, maybe Max Duggan, was back to playing hero ball, because you had 7 straight games where he had at least 3 touchdowns, at least in 7 straight games. And then I don't know what's happened in the last 2, but he's kind of just fallen off a cliff. They ended up winning 17-3 or 17-10. This was like such a just chef's kiss. Texas is not back. The moment's too big for them, and they're going to piss down their leg in front of everybody moment. And
everybody was picking them in this game. Like literally, I didn't talk to a single person last week that was saying, man, TCU is going to keep this thing rolling. Everybody was saying prime time night game at DK Royal Stadium. Texas this is it. They're going to beat TCU, and TCU ran it down their throat. The Miller kid broke off a 75-yard run.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was really it. It was like Texas kept keeping it close, and you're like, all right, here we go. They just could never put the drive together. TCU's defense deserves a lot of credit. And look, we're going to have a lot of people, Tennessee fans rooting like crazy for TCU to lose. TCU can lose at Baylor this weekend. Baylor is still a very good team.
Baylor sucks.
That's a tough place to play. I'll just tell you. They're not as good as
for K-State.
Okay. Baylor's not as good as they were a year ago. That would not surprise me at all if they upset TCU this weekend.
Yeah, well, and I almost hate to say that too, because it's like it speaks volumes about how tough like the Big 12 actually is, right, as a conference. At the same time, it's also like if TCU goes into this weekend without like any sort of if they're fucking an underdog again, which Vegas hates them. So does the college football playoff committee. So does like Texas Atheist University, I guess. I don't know. They get hated on a lot. It was very surprising they were 7.5-point underdog. But the last game I want to talk about before we get into some Heisman talk and get you out of here, UNC Wake, man. UNC is I don't know what they did. They are like an inner city step, like a substitute teacher, man. They just get shit on constantly. They're an underdog. I guess it was at Wake, but Drake May.
He's having a great year, man.
He should be the Heisman frontrunner, in my opinion.
Hey, go look at who they've beaten this year. I mean,
listen. Gene Chizik. First off, he wins the Heisman. Gene Chizik should get a part of that Heisman, and not in a good way either.
Look, their run recently, they had close wins against Virginia, Duke, Miami, who shit, Pitt. I mean, like this is who they've been beaten up on. I don't want to take anything away from North Carolina. They're one of the best sneaky 9-1 teams out there, but like also who've you beaten? And again,
okay, but first off, this is probably the biggest like performance we've seen from Drake in quite some time. Like, and also you brought the Michael Penix thing. That kid, he's nowhere near. He's never like anywhere being talked about for the Heisman. But Drake May, they are 9-1. If they beat Clemson, there's no way he wins the Heisman. There's no fucking way he wins the Heisman because he plays at UNC and no one pays attention to it and it doesn't matter. But it's a really, really great year that he's having. And it's just going unnoticed, and I don't understand why. Because like
they're about to get humbled. They play the two best teams they'll face all year these next 2 weeks.
What do you mean?
NC State and Clemson.
NC State, they've been out with their starting quarterback's been out all year.
But like what I'm saying is they're two top 20 teams. Like you're finally going to get tested by good teams.
Okay. Well, I was not expecting that amount of negativity, Connor, but I will tell you that the 39 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, if this guy was wearing a Michigan helmet, he would be the front runner for the Heisman right now.
So you're saying now he plays on the East Coast. Is it West Coast bias that's not giving Drake May the love or what?
First off, he's from Canada. Drake is from Canada. So he's polite to everyone. This Drake May is the kind of kid that's going to put out thank you cards to every single voter, even if they didn't vote for him.
Drake May is from North Carolina.
Drake May is actually from the Canadian part of North Carolina, which you don't understand because you're not cultured. All right, let's get out of here because I know you're tired and you've been a godsend.
Can I throw one more thing in when we're talking about all these teams? USC, it is setting up for them. They're going to find a way into the playoff. One, because it's Lincoln Riley, but go look at who their next 2 teams are. And by the way, they played on Friday, so we forgot about them. They beat up on Colorado.
I didn't. I bet on them.
They played number 12 UCLA this weekend, and then they played number 20 Notre Dame. They're going to win both those. They're going to win the Pac-12. USC's getting in the playoff.
That's actually a good point because they'd also have to beat Oregon most likely.
Yeah.
That UCLA USC game will be really good.
I don't like it. Tennessee fans, get ready to get pissed off. USC's going to get in ahead of you.
I actually don't. I think Tennessee will get in. Anyway, so the Heisman, like we are ending the season pretty soon. This is week 13, which is notoriously the worst weekend of the year if you're an SEC fan because there's very few conference matchups. Alabama's playing Austin, sit down to pee. Auburn's playing Western Kentucky. Vanderbilt's playing themselves. I mean, I don't even know how you do that. And so anyway, there are some good matchups. Like you said, the USC UCLA game. I want to say Utah's playing somebody. Illinois, Michigan is something, I guess. I don't know. But there are still stories and teams that are, I feel like, getting overlooked constantly, like the Drake May thing. Who are your top 3 to 5 teams or players that are not getting enough love that you want to give shout out to?
Oh, man. That aren't getting enough love?
Yeah, that you would like to get on a soapbox right now and give them some love.
Oh, geez. Deuce Vaughn, I feel like, doesn't get enough love at Kansas State.
Right.
I think he's had a fantastic year. He's already over 1,000 yards. I don't know if he's going to win any national awards, and he gets enough love in the SEC. But what Quinshon Judkins did this year, he jumped Rocket Sanders, by the way. Rocket Sanders only had like 46 yards against LSU.
Yeah,
so he's now Judkins is now the leading rusher in the SEC. I think like
he's a true freshman.
Yeah, as a true freshman, if he doesn't make a couple of, All-American lists, like it's going to be a damn shame.
Yeah,
He'll
and he
be all
won't.
freshman teams, but like that's one that I think he deserves a little bit more love. I wish Stetson Bennett had more touchdown passes, man. I would make a case for him in the Heisman race, but I just
Well, they started to make a case for him, and he deserved to be in the talk. He has the
really,
sixth
yeah,
best odds out of any other player in the country right now. I haven't pulled up our friends at DraftKings. They have like the latest odds up right now, and CJ Stroud, despite what happened against Northwestern, is still the overwhelming favorite. And listen, they blew out Indiana, which is a surprise to no one. But CJ Stroud, Hendon Hooker, Blake Corum, Drake May. Drake May and Blake Corum actually have the same odds, which is, I'll tell you right now that Drake May will finish anywhere close to Blake Corum in terms of votes. Caleb Williams snuck back in, and then you have Stetson Bennett the fourth, right ahead of Max Duggan and Jaden Daniels. I don't know what surprises me more, the fact that Bryce Young and Bo Nix have the same odds, or that Stetson Bennett is the quarterback that on the defending national champion, like Georgia Bulldogs. They're undefeated again this year. And he had the ball rolling. Like they had early Heisman talk for him, and then he just, I don't know. Like I don't know if there's enough big games left on that schedule for him. Because I don't think, no offense, I think they're going to kill LSU.
Well, and let's be real. If they had to go to the backup for the rest of the season, they're probably still winning those games. Georgia.
First off, that guy looks like Marv from Home Alone, so I don't know if that's true. But no, I like the Stetson comment. Will Rogers is probably a guy that I would have said the same thing about early on, but now that he's played good competition.
Yeah. No. What's great, I did the numbers on Will Rogers. Go look at his stats in the 4 losses. He's thrown 1 touchdown or less in all the losses. 24 combined touchdowns in the 6 wins. Like he's on,
he's just Will
they
Levis.
Win. When they lose, he's terrible. Like it's weird.
I will say another team that I feel like is not getting enough love. UCF. And I never want to say that. Right now, Bama's projected to play them in a bowl game, and I'm going to kill myself if that happens.
John Rice Plumlee's going to run all over Bama.
For sure. And Gus Malzahn's the coach, and Bama's going to have everyone sitting out.
I think Bryce Young's not going to play in that Florida game, whatever it is.
No one is.
Capital One.
First off, you know the names of the bowl games, okay? Actually, I'm trying to think of the last time you guys would have been in there. I don't think that they're getting anywhere close to the amount of love they should be getting. From a team standpoint, man, I just TCU, they're ranked in the top 4. I feel like they still somehow fly under the radar. It makes no sense to me. They constantly get overlooked. But UNC is the same way, and I don't even think it has anything to do with their defense. As much as I want to blame Chiswick because he unfollowed me on Twitter, I think it's like somehow they're just not a big enough brand, and it's kind of Clemson's fault somehow. That the ACC is so down. I think like the conference as a whole has held them back.
I think we're going to get, it's funny. A lot of these award watch lists are coming out with their finalists. I think the Lombardi comes out with their 4 finalists this coming week. We're starting to butt kiss all these awards. Drew Sanders, I think, deserves something for what
I was thinking
all this year.
Have his numbers gone up though?
I mean,
he's still the SEC leader in sacks.
Yeah, 9 sacks is still. I mean, that's the leader in the clubhouse. Jordan Dominic, another one at Arkansas, who's had a really great year. I had somebody talking to me yesterday about Harold Perkins. They said he'll be freshman All-American, but he honestly should be just All-American with the year that he's had. But he
has 7.5 sacks, so.
But it's one of those things like he's coming on late, and it feels like so many of these writers already have things decided in their head. Like what you did the first 6 weeks of the season is what they base so much of their stuff on. It's like they don't allow things to change as the weeks go along.
It's always really bad with college football writers too, because it's either that or it's only what you've done like at the end of the season. Which
if you perform great in the SEC championship game, they will boost you 1,000,000 points because that was the last thing we saw you do.
Oh, you don't have to just say Bryce's name, dickhead. That's really uncalled for. Drew Sanders has 8.5 sacks. He leads the SEC. Will Anderson has 8 somehow right behind him. And your boy Harold Perkins has 7.5 right behind him.
The SEC, what website are you looking at?
CFBstats.com.
So SEC Sports credits, SECsports.com credits Sanders with 9 and Perkins with 8.
What about Will Anderson? He has like 2.
He has 8.
Okay.
So that's
I
the
didn't know if
official SEC stats. That's what I go by. Everybody else is
okay.
different.
The last thing I would say that the group is not getting enough love is the officials. The SEC officials have done a really good job turning it around because they get so much criticism early in the season. And I feel like you watch games now and they have done a great job of learning from their mistakes, not over impacting games, and not being, I'm fucking kidding. They get worse and worse every single week. They're like, there was a targeting call in the Auburn game where I'm pretty sure I saw the kid's tooth fly out of his mouth. Like the entire world saw it. Like the noise will haunt me forever. And they somehow like referees going to review and looking at a video and still making the wrong call. I'm over it.
I think they need to change. There was the fumble in the Mississippi State Georgia game where they had ruled the play dead because they said his forward progress had been stopped, and Mike Leach was like, "No, they clearly." And on the replay, you saw it's a fumble. The ball was out before he was brought to the ground, but it's that stupid thing. Well, no, once we blew the whistle, the play was dead, and that's it. It was like that.
Georgia got a call. They went their way.
Yeah, it should still be reviewable. I think overall, for the most part, the refs have. Like, I don't think they've cost anybody games. Like typically, was it Arkansas or Auburn that always gets screwed? Whoever.
Auburn got like they screwed over Arkansas and got like 2 wins in the 2020 season.
That's what it was. Yeah. But I feel like there hasn't been huge, monstrous, blatant ones. But overall, they're still not great.
It's been. I don't know how you could say that if you have not witnessed Bama getting 17 penalties at Tennessee.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They finally started penalizing Bama this year. So.
Fun fact, they've been the most penalized team in the conference 3 of the last 4 years. I'll say it again. No, the last but not least, too, I will say at Auburn, a kid that just does not get enough love. Jarquez Hunter is awesome. He's awesome to watch. Yeah. And the other one, too, is Derek Hall is one of the best looking, like physically imposing players in this league. And it's been really fun to see that team kind of get like signs of life again because – listen, Connor Williams doesn't know shit about how to coach like the defensive line or the offensive line. And somehow magically, since that rent-a-cop from Boise has been gone, Brian Harsin, they've been night and day. So
yeah, he knows a thing or two about coaching running backs there. They look pretty good. Oh, somebody else threw in Malachi Starks at Georgia. He deserves some love.
Yeah, he's great, man. He's great. Listen, I know you're tired. I appreciate you coming on here and filling in for Tyler. Tell everyone where they can find your content and your stuff. And then I'll make sure it's taken out of the final product.
Just wherever you find your podcast, just search Locked On SEC. We have Marler on once a week anyway. So yeah, listen to all of them except that one.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. All right, dude. Thank you again. And I will I got a couple more things we're gonna say to close out the show, but thank you for joining us, Gordy.
All right, good. Talk to you soon.
See you, bud. All right. This has been a long show, which is probably to no surprise since I was the one planning it and I don't know what I'm doing without Tyler. Anyway, we have a big week ahead. We have a lot of content coming your way. SEC championship games coming up. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to several people by name. I mentioned Jax earlier, who gave us the tickets to the game. We've had a lot of fun this season. I feel like probably more so late in the year than maybe early on. And it's been one of those things where I hate the fact that there's 2 weeks left in the season. But going to Auburn this weekend was just a really great experience and meeting all these people. And it made me think about this on the way home today. Like I've met Willie Gray before in person, but most of you guys are just like, our internet friends or our listeners or whatever. But you guys really do mean so much to us. And it's the only reason we have a show and can be successful because you guys somehow put up with us. And we went down there. I went down there this weekend and I was fully expecting just like to make fun of the Colts, the overalls, the weird ass names like Kip. And don't get me wrong, I definitely did make fun of it, but it was a great experience. And if you are an Auburn fan, I will say it's not the best atmosphere in the country, but there are not a lot of other places in the world of college football that are like Auburn. And it was a really, really cool experience and a really cool vibe, and we really enjoyed it. Also, there's a Whataburger on campus. So shout out to everybody we got to meet this weekend from Auburn Twitter, from all those good things. We had a great time. Hope to do it again soon. Love you too, William Gray. Bama should hire Glenn Schumann to replace Saban when the time. Who's Glenn Schumann? Anyway, yeah. So we had a couple of questions that people threw out in the Facebook group. I'll be honest, I feel like it's probably time to end the show. But we will make sure we get them and the voicemails from last week on the upcoming episode. We don't have a game we're going to this weekend as of right now. You guys have any ideas? Let us know. I will say I think I might be headed to the Egg Bowl in a couple weeks, and also maybe the Iron Bowl as well. Started to get teary-eyed at the cowbells. Why would you get teary-eyed at the cowbells? There's that. Yeah. Also, last but not least, I know that this weekend sucks in terms of the what do you call it? The slate of games in the SEC. But like that fat kid that Adam Sandler had to grab by the cheeks in Billy Madison. Don't you ever say that. Stay here in the season and cherish it for as long as you can. For the love of God. Willie Gray, are we going to Kentucky? I'll go to Kentucky with you. Anyway, we will be back tomorrow Tuesday with an episode of me and Connor breaking down the latest playoff rankings. And then Tyler and I will be back on Wednesday. So I hope all of you had a great night. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And we will see you soon. Love y'all.